Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of my wonderful and beautiful little subscribers out there. And how I love you all so, and I hope that you're all super duper well, super duper wonderful, and super duper delicious. And the life is treating you most deliciously wherever you are in the world. And I hope that the weather's warm and delicious wherever you are in the world. Now then, there's no sunshine, although there was a bit of sunshine this morning, very cloudy. Well, it's rather warm. Delicious little babies, okay? Anyway, we're not going to worry about that. Not going to worry about that, okay? As long as it's not raining. We all need rain, but not 24/7. Okay, my delicious little babies. Now then. So 3, 2, 1, my juicy little lights. Thank you, little lights. You're delicious and bright. Yes, they are, aren't they, my delicious little babies? Now then. So there's just two today, my delicious little babies. Okay, so the first one. This uploader happens to have 7.5 thousand subscribers, my delicious little babies, and it is called in the old space bar, my delicious little babies in YouTube. They're both on YouTube, my delicious little babies. Should anybody have any form of an interest, capital R, then RKS, Ricks, space, capital E, Europe. Okay, my delicious little babies, that's upload that, and with anybody not in that way, not in that way. So it should read in the old space bar once tapped in, Ricks space Europe. Okay, my delicious little babies. Now then, this video is just over 21 minutes long, my delicious little babies, okay? And it should read, mass immigration is changing Ireland. Okay, my delicious little babies, so I'm just going to repeat that again for you, shall I? Mass immigration is changing Ireland. Okay, my delicious little babies, yeah. Well, there's ones who are really not happy. They are speaking very sensibly on this video, my delicious little babies, okay? There we are, and to be fair, they are talking common sense. You see, basically what it is that, well, it's quite clear that they are very, very fed up of the EU, my delicious little babies, okay? And, well, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, this is it now. What they're also talking about is that there is rather a large number of Irish who are leaving Ireland, my delicious little babies. Well, again, it's only a matter of time. Here we are, if I even say it, before wherever else they go, that, there'll be, mankind from other countries going into that country. Okay, my delicious little babies. I mean, if we take a look back to Italy, I forgot where it was now. I forgot where it was, and it came up on my feed months and months and months and months ago. I do remember mentioning something about this, my delicious little babies, on one of my videos. I mean, this particular little part of Italy, it only had 6,000 who actually lived on the island, my delicious little babies. When, of course, then they sent in, was it, 30? There's always a 3 in there, my delicious little babies. 30,000 was it Africans? Okay, my delicious little babies. There we are. If my noddle serves me correctly, okay. Which of course nobody knew what to do, because you got to look at, if you got 6,000, and if they're, they've got their, let's just say, their way of life, okay, then all of a sudden you've got 30,000 men. Okay, whether it be, in this case, was African, but whether it be any other nationality, the fact of the matter is, if they're all men, well, the numbers do not quite add up, do they, my delicious little babies? Okay, so therefore, that particular island there now was clearly turned upside down and around the bend just like a roller coaster, my delicious little babies. And I haven't heard anything else, actually. I'll have to see if I can find out, see what's been happening. But of course, if you've got so many women who are there. Anyway, To be honest with you, Mads, Lishlik babies, I just dread to spare a thought for that. To tell you the truth, Mads, Lishlik babies, okay? Because not everybody, and this can be any nationality, anybody on this earth, okay? I'm not talking about everybody, Mads, Lishlik babies, there seems to be certain, okay? No matter what nationality, okay? Where, you know, they simply do not understand the word no, Maardalishtuk babies. Do you see what I mean? It's like it's not a part of their vocabulary. Okay, Maardalishtuk babies, okay? We've seen it, there we are in Sweden, didn't we? Maardalishtuk babies. And of course, you know, there's reports, you know, of very sadly, you know, things going on like this in Ireland as well, okay? Well, I mean, even if we look at England, Mads Lichtig babies, I've seen one, what was it, about a week and a half ago now, where this woman, I think it's only just under a couple of minutes long, Mads Lichtig babies, and she actually filmed, she'd ordered, you couldn't see a birth trace or anything, okay? That doesn't mean a yes. And this Just Eats, you know, this, you know, these flipping poxy Just Eats, okay, Mads Lichtig babies, okay? Well, turned up, you know, to deliver her food, and anyway, but she had it filming, you know what I mean, Mads Lichtig babies, guy. And he said, I come back later, I come back later. Do you see to me? Isn't the man now then just meant to be, there we are, delivering that poxy Just Eat foods? Isn't that what he's just supposed to be doing? Is not meant to be trying to tune in. That's just a, you know, another way of saying, you know, check somebody out, you know what I mean? Or, you know, want to get to know them more, shall we say, okay? He should not be wanting to tune in to a customer, okay, my delicious little babies, okay? But no, and I'm pretty sure that if we was to look on, you know, the internet, there we are, there'd be many more videos like this, my delicious little babies, in our old England, in Ireland, in, you know, should imagine Scotland, Wales, you know, in all different places, my delicious little babies, do you know what I mean? So it was very interesting to listen to, and it was really important as well, because towards the end, there was a young man who said, you know, we do believe that, you know, this will, well, basically, this is not his words, these are my words. I'll just say it in my way. It will sort itself out, iron itself out, okay? But of course, yes, you know, it's got to get worse. There we are, before it gets better. Well, I totally agree. I mean, we've got it here, many other places, Mardalish babies. Do you know what I mean? It's not because, you know, you see, what one's issues here, okay, a lot of the issues, what's going on here, is the fact that, number one, it's only men who are coming over Mardalish babies. Now, this, there we are, if you flee in a war zone, okay, well, surely to goodness, there we are, you be bringing your family. So that's all common sense. We known this, there we are, long time, okay, Mardalish babies. But the fact of the matter is that it's not so much that. It can be their ways, there we are, that they bring along with them. Okay, my traditional babies, I'm not saying every single one of them. Some, they've just, you know, maybe they just thought, you know, it was going to be a better way for them, my delicious little babies, just to live a life, you know. But it's very clear that there does not appear to be very many who do like the immigrants coming in, my delicious little babies. But again, who is there we are allowing this to happen, my delicious little babies? Do you see what I mean? So we get back, there we are, to square one again, my delicious little babies. Do you see what I mean? But that's well worth a listen, okay? And I was talking about, yeah, because I mentioned this before, you know, Conor, is it Conor McGregor? He's a boxer or something. You know, with him wanting to be president. What my concern was there, and I'm going to repeat this again, is that, you know, once you go to the Oval Office, you know, the studio over in Barn in the USA, so that's nothing against the Americans. I'm talking about the Oval Office studio. My delicious little babies. Well, once you go there, you may as well, there we are, say game over. Because whoever then gets into Ireland, there we are, as a president, okay? even if he's meaning the best will in the world. My delicious babies, the fact of the matter is, no, you see what I mean? So at the end of the day, going to have to see that we are how this maps out, my delicious babies, Like I said, I mean, nothing against, the boxer or anything. Do you understand what I mean? I'm just talking about that. Say, for example, somebody, there we are, whispers a few things in his ears now. Do you see what I'm saying, okay? Because that's how, there we are, that's how they get them into power, there we are, in the first place, my delicious babies. Do you see what I mean, okay? Well worth a watch there, my delicious babies, should anybody have any form of an interest, okay? Now, finally, this uploader happens to have 1.59 thousand subscribers, my delicious little babies, and it is called, and this is just over 31 minutes, my delicious little babies. So these are not long videos today, my delicious little babies, okay? And this uploader is called, in the old space bar on YouTube, once again, my delicious little babies, capital T, the, and then space, capital F, forgotten. Okay, my delicious little babies, so I'm just going to repeat that again for you, shall I? The uploader is called, in your space bar, the space forgotten. Okay, my delicious little babies, okay? So this video should read the medieval child Brad, 6-year-old, forced to marry 29-year-old king. Okay, my delicious little babies, okay, so I'll just repeat that again for you, shall I? The medieval child Brad, 6-year-old, forced to marry 29-year-old king. Yes, my delicious little babies, so now I'm going to close my book, and what we need to do is go back to where we need to. There we are, go back to my delicious little babies. Now then, let's discuss very quickly. So, what this is about is a little young little lady, little young lass, little bairn called Isabella. And who she married was, what was his name? A man called Richard. Okay, my delicious babies now. His wife passed away. This over in Old England, my delicious babies, and he had nothing to replace her with. He never had no heirs or anything like this now. Anyway, so when Isabella was born in France, I mean, for those of you who know my delicious babies, but for others of you, my delicious babies, you may not know, okay? So when she was born, this was not about, having a beautiful little bouncing baby daughter, no. What this was about was that she was going to be married at the age of 6, okay? And it was all to do with politics, okay, my delicious babies. So her dad was one of these where, he was going around a twist, my delicious little babies, okay? Because you used to hear a lot about that, especially in, there we are, in these so-called fake royalties. Do you know what I mean, my delicious little babies, over the decades and decades. But, yeah, so she had a little puppy as well. And she was only allowed to bring one little dolly with her. She just wanted her little dollies, but she was only allowed to bring one with her. They wouldn't allow her to, that means, no, they wouldn't allow her to bring her little puppy either, because, who she was going to be marrying, this 29-year-old man, did not like our beautiful little babies that we call our sons and daughters. Okay, my delicious little babies. So, yeah. And then, of course, she had this crown, which kept slipping, bless her. The poor little bairn, she was in tears. Do you understand what I mean, my delicious little babies, okay? Anyway, her mother was a bitch anyway, okay, back over in France. And, a mammy and a daddy, both of them, I feel, were rather twisted, oddballs. You know what I mean, my delicious babies. Anyway, once married, bless her. She then, that big man there now, I couldn't give a shout what his title is. Okay, you don't go around marrying 6-year-old little babies now. Okay, my delicious little babies, and yeah. So they did. He did sleep in her, in the supposedly marital bed. Disgusting, putrid. And of course, for 3 days, the little girl, Isabella, she wouldn't talk to anybody, she wouldn't eat anything. Do you see what I mean? My delicious little babies, anyway. Well, from then on, it's like they had separate sleeping quarters, my delicious little babies. Then he bought her all toys, he bought her everything. So she wasn't dripping with the crown jewels or clothes. This was, toys and dolls. And he bought her a tiny little pony, real pony and everything, mad, delicious little babies. And of course, in this one to say, maybe, grooming. Anyway, at 10, she was widowed. Okay, mad, delicious little babies, although she did still feel that he was alive. Um, and then she went through something else when she was 13. Then she met somebody who was around her age because she went back to France. Okay, my little babies. And, well, then she became pregnant. So for the first time in her life, she felt, like she was in love with somebody, and then, they were having a baby. And then very sadly, she'd given birth to a beautiful baby daughter, baby girl. Well, that wasn't sad. I mean, that was a blessing for her. But due to her body giving up, um, she wanted to hold her little baby just one last time, and then she whispered something in her little baby daughter's ear, which nobody ever knew. And she passed away at 20. My delicious little baby's. How sad is that? So, like I say, I mean, this, has been going on. There we are around the world. There we are, long time. My delicious little babies, a very, very, very. There we are, long time. Okay, comments are always really interesting. There we are, once again, to read. I mean, I do appreciate that not everybody could sit there reading every single comment. I mean, that would be for the uploader, and maybe if somebody else is commenting to, if they want to have a browse through. Do you understand what I mean, my delicious little babies? But so I do appreciate that nobody can look at every single comment, my delicious little babies. However, um, there we are. I just thought the whole lot was, there we are, really, really, really sad. My delicious little babies. Do you see what I mean? Okay, because we get back to it again, don't we? When you're brought into the world, it should be, which, for the majority of mummies and daddies out there we are. It is so beautiful, and it is a heartwarming moment because you know, because you really want to welcome little baby, into the world. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, welcome, big wide world. Do you see what I mean? Okay. And what the whole idea is, there we are, to do your best to protect. Do you see what I mean? But because we live in a world, let's just say, with not so very nice, dirty little filthy now little paedophiles. Do you see what I mean, my delicious little babies? Okay, and usually ones who are in so-called power. Okay, my delicious little babies. This is very sadly, there we are in this case, and of course it goes on, all over the world. Has been, like I say, a long time. Okay, it's all to do with poxy politics again. My delicious little babies. Do you see what I mean? But I mean, how anybody could just sit by. I mean, little Isabella, she did start to get, help as she got a little bit older, because like servants and everything did feel sorry for her, so she managed to get messages over to France and, things like this now then. Do you see what I mean? Okay. But a little young Ben like that a little girl should never have been put in that position, you know what I mean? And of course, there would have been thousands of others who are in that position who never got the chance, there we are, to speak. Do you see what I mean, my delicious little babies? I just find it absolutely disgusting. I mean, if you've got two consenting adults and both the adults like each other, there we are, fall in love with one another. Okay, because that is usually how it goes, isn't it, my delicious little babies? I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody has different lives. I do get that, okay? But if you've got two, there we are, consenting adults, well, you know, a man now should be happy looking at a woman. He should never, with his dirty man now, then his dirty noddle, be looking at little boys or little girls, my delicious little babies, because to myself, that is proper, that we are oddball and disgusting and putrid, worse than putrid behaviour. My delicious little babies, do you see what I mean? Okay, but usually when they're taken when they're that young, there we are, very sadly, it's usually as a way of moulding, isn't it? It's like, you are man, and it's like polishing a little trophy every day, my delicious little babies, you know what I mean, okay? And it's all about control, isn't it? It's like I can overpower you. Do you see? So that little Ben doesn't have any um, way of being able to defend themselves. Do you see what I mean, my delicious little babies? Okay. I mean, if you look at the average little bear now, even if you was to, we've all been, out shopping or at parks or something, and they throw a little tantrum, some of them do, my delicious little babies, so of course they're going to get a little telling off, because that is a form of discipline if you're just telling them off and not to do that again. Do you see what I mean, my delicious little babies, okay? But you imagine if you're in a situation and you cannot leave, so Isabella couldn't leave that where she lived in a castle, she couldn't leave there. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, I feel a very terrible, there we are, life to live. And really you're surrounded by what more or less are adults. I mean, I do not mean this, it's just a figure of speech, my delicious babies, but, that would have been feeling, there we are, rather suffocating. You're away from your family, you're away from everything that you know. She never got to bring a little puppy with her either, who would have been the most beautiful, there we are, companion to her. Do you see what I mean? Okay. And I'm pretty sure that little puppy would have missed her for the rest of he or she's life as well. Do you see what I mean? So it would have been, the feelings would have been very mutual between the two, little Isabella and a little puppy. Do you see what I mean? But to be just lifted from a home in France and then plonked into our old England, my delicious little babies, okay, around everybody who she does not know. She did not understand what anybody was really saying. She did not really understand the language or anything. She didn't understand English. Do you see? Imagine being put into that situation, my delicious little babies. Do you know what I mean? But we speak not only for little Isabella, but for any other little baby in that time, little girl, that we are very sadly who had to go through that, who doesn't get a mention. Do you know what I mean? Because I should imagine there's probably not much, I should imagine, books or paperwork on it, my delicious little babies, you know what I mean? It's usually to do with, like I say, the fake royals and everything, my delicious little babies, do you know what I mean? But, and it's like when they, what is it as well, like these fake royals, over the decades and whatever, I don't know, a few centuries or whatever, where it's like they're inbred, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you look at them like from um, centuries ago, my delicious little babies, I mean, they were rather odd. I mean, please do not get me wrong. I mean, I'm not one to look at, what somebody else looks like. No, I'm not my delicious little babies, but they're very rather, there we are, odd looking. And you could curely, well, yeah. I don't think we could have cured that. My delicious little babies, okay, so sorry, do forgive me, okay, I stumbled then. Every reason to. But when you look at them, you could clearly see that something wasn't correct. My delicious little babies, like their features and everything, it just never looked quite right. My delicious little babies. But again, when you inbreed, it's like, I mean, I've got nothing against, if ones want to live the way they want to live, then just be done doing it. As long as it's not my life, then I'm not being nasty, marginalistic babies. I couldn't give a damn. Couldn't give a figures F. Do you know what I mean? It's not my life. But I do not agree with cousins marrying. I do not feel that that's correct. It's not correct. And I do not believe in it. And I'm entitled to my view. I'm a woman with a view. I shall have my effing view. So I'm not here to hurt, offend, or upset anybody. But I just do not feel that that is correct to do. And of course, in some families, which of course that would have gone on in these fair royal families as well, because they do that because they've got to keep it in, we are family, so they can keep all the crown jewels, all the gold and whatever else they wanted to keep. Do you see what I mean? Martylish babies, Kai. And of course, even to this day, in some religions, there we are, it goes on, cousins marry one another. No. I do not see that as being correct. Okay? So, I mean, I know that others will say, well, what would you know, Carla, and everything? Well, at the end of the day, I know enough to know that if we look at this world, that surely to goodness somebody could meet somebody else who's not related, my delicious little babies. Do you know what I mean? That's what I would have thought. Okay? Then, of course, over the decades, to be fair, I have met a couple of couples, only a couple though. I mean, imagine I'm 51 now and I've only met a couple of couples who actually, well, they'll still be married now, Martin babies, and they get on super duper well. They fell in love with each other and they were, super duper happy and really happy with their choice. But that's certainly, there we are, a couple of couples that I know of, because nobody else has, come along to myself and said it. There was only ever a couple of couples. I'm going back years ago now, my delicious little babies kind. But I do not know of any others. But then I suppose I haven't asked. Do you know what I mean, my delicious little babies kind? But I'm pretty sure, it must still go on now, And even over here, my delicious little babies, there we are, and in other countries. I mean, so if ones want to live like that, well, that's up to them, isn't it? It's not my business. You know what I mean? But it's just something myself. That at the end of the day, that that I would not want to do, my delicious little babies. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you see some of the very old photographs, my word, they look very odd, my delicious little babies. Do you know what I mean? And what's worse still, they just do not look happy either, my delicious little babies. Well, I suppose I wouldn't look happy looking like that, my delicious little babies. And I'm being serious when I say that, my delicious little babies. I wouldn't feel happy either, looking like that. So I'm not being nasty against anybody, I do not go out in the street and look at someone and think, oh, you're ugly, you're this, you're... No, I'm not. It's just that when you see, and it's inbred and it's very plain to see, but there's other things as well that are not quite right, my delicious little babies. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so that's the end of our video, my delicious little babies. So any of the videos that I've given information on today, my delicious little babies, should anybody have any form of an interest, But yeah, so but really should put a stop to this marrying little babies now. My delicious little babies, do you see what I mean? Because that is not correct. That is paedophilia, and it must not continue to be allowed ever. You see what I mean? Of course, if society, I mean, I know for the majority, okay, society are very against this, okay, there we are, and rightfully so, okay, but we must not let these, whoever they are, to make this where it is normal, because that's what they were trying to do with the World Health Organization. My delicious little babies, do you see what I mean? Well, no, it is not normal, not at all. And I will keep banging on about it, my delicious little babies, because, you know, with everything else that they're throwing at us, okay, my delicious little babies. Oh, and one last thing I want to say. Yeah, it seems that there are some, isn't there, my delicious little babies, who are pushing this AI, and they seem to think it's, for some, that it's a super duper excellent idea. Well, here's what I've got to say about this, my delicious little babies. I personally feel that this is a very, very bad idea. And I mean, I even seen some videos, what was it, yesterday, this morning, that anyway, I've seen them over the weeks, but anyway. And the more and more that you're looking, is the more and more you cannot tell if it is, I seen there was an original, there we are, and there was this AI and all this business, right? And it looked, there we are, exactly, there we are, the flipping damn same. You couldn't tell the difference, my delicious little babies, you know what I mean? I just think that that's rather frightening. My delicious little babies, do you see what I mean? I heard on another video about this woman's husband. He was otherwise a very gentle man, she said. And he was getting involved with, what's that thing called? This, is it Chat BT or Chat PT, whatever it's called? Okay. Oh, yeah. And it sent him a little bit. Do you understand what I mean, my delicious little babies? And here's my answer to this. This is what I want to say, and I'm going to be over and out. Okay, my delicious little babies? This is going to be, from what I can see so far, okay, there's some who are pushing it for, let's just say, to do with politics. There we are, my delicious little babies, okay? I personally do not feel it's a good selling point at all, my delicious little babies. That's just my personal view. You know what I mean? Like I say again, a woman with a view, she'll have me effing view. Okay? And the ones who are pushing it, they like to keep a straight birth race. Like, this is wonderful and delicious. And usually they're working for somebody, in the old politics, my delicious little babies. Do you know what I mean? Yes. So selling this has been a good thing. The sun's starting to crack out, my delicious little babies, okay? But if we remember back in the COVID, if we remember back then, my delicious little babies, what ones are pushing certain uploaders, my delicious little babies, okay? And then, of course, if they could get onto somebody else's channel, usually they are a very large channel. Okay, my delicious little babies, okay? Then they're still all chatting chat. Do you see what I mean, my delicious little babies, okay? I have a feeling, a very, very strong feeling, that this is going to go a similar way. Okay, my delicious babies, and what do I mean by that, just before I'm over and out? What I mean by that is, my delicious little babies, is that in the COVID era, okay, which there's many in the world, of course, there's many of us who do remember my delicious little babies, and there's many, very sadly, who just wants to, for whatever reason, just get on with their everyday life and pretend it never happened. Well, it did happen. There we are. And I shall make sure that myself and, and others, they will make sure that they will, there we are, always never forget it. My delicious little babies, okay? Well, of course, at that time, then you had ones, get this, do this, okay? And then what happens when, there we are, when it goes terribly, terribly, there we are, wrong? Then you've got them saying, I was wrong, I should never have done it. It's going to be another, there we are, it's going to be another case with the AI. There we are. It is. Okay, my delicious little babies, okay? So these ones who are pushing it, and like I said, the ones, with who get a good wage, ching, 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 from different places, yeah. I seen one video this morning. The conversation was really good. I'm not going to mention the video, but when it was coming towards the end and about this chat, I thought, you know what? And such a big channel as well. Okay, my delicious little babies, yes, okay. So you've got to see what's going on here. But again, we have, there we are, another experiment. And let's not forget that dear young Indian man who was the only little bairn, who I did say, I wrote it down in my video weeks and weeks and weeks ago, who he was found, let's just say, not alive. And bless his mummy and daddy, who are Indian. They have every reason to believe that his life, there we are, was taken. But what he was doing was trying to warn, there we are, about this AI. Okay, because he's seen, there we are, where it is going. Do you see what I mean, my delicious little babies? Yes. And very sadly, he's no longer here, my delicious little babies. So imagine that. Do you see? But of course, we hear a lot, whoever happens to know a fair bit, and then, they're in these job roles and everything, my delicious little babies. And then when they realise that this is not a good idea at all, you know what I mean? And they want to come out. Okay, it's not easy to do, my delicious little babies, if you follow me. Okay, so we must not forget about who is losing their lives. That we are over these years, that we are in the process to hide the truth. My delicious little babies, do you know what I mean? But of course, with this chat BT, whatever it's called, okay, my delicious little babies, well, it seems to myself, you ain't going to need, I know what, there we are, I know what I'm talking about, my delicious little babies. And anyone who is so very kind enough to listen to my videos, there we are, you're going to get where I'm coming from, what I'm talking about, okay, my delicious little babies. And I didn't mean the COVID against anybody, bless them, who took anything. No, I do not. Okay, I'm not talking about that. Okay, my delicious little babies, I repeat it again, as I quite often do. My heart goes out to everybody, apart from the effers who are pushing it. Okay, my delicious little babies, okay? But it's like this, it's going to get to the stage, you're not going to need drugs, are you? Because you're going to have this silly nonsense now. So they may as well, there we are, be like damn zombies. Do you understand what I mean, my delicious little babies? I'm not being nasty. But I mean, this is very, there we are, serious. My delicious little babies, this AI and the this chat PT, whatever it's called, or PT. Okay, my delicious little babies, okay? Now, I know that one say that AI, it can work in a positive way. Well, okay. I can get what some are saying. However, what the part I do not get is that, let's just say, I do not feel that, and this is the part I don't get, I'm going to repeat it again. The part I do not get, I'll repeat again, is why ones would be so desperate, there we are, to keep pushing this. Okay? And even though ones say, oh, well, I repeat this again, it could be used for good. Okay, but it's not, is it? That's the whole point. It's not. Because, if something, there we are, is in the wrong hands. It's like, okay, let me just give an example. It's like somebody getting into, let me just give an example, come to the top of my noddle, a Porsche. So you give somebody the keys to a brand new Porsche. Me personally, I'd never want keys to brand new cars. Okay, my delicious little babies, I much, much, much prefer the older cars, my delicious little babies. But it seems that born in the USA, they seem to want, there we are, the old cars, don't they, my delicious little babies? And they want quite a lot, there we are, of ours in old England, my delicious little babies, it seems, anyway. But the point of the matter is, and of course, if you look at Ford, I mean, well, it seems that the seatbelt and all different things are made in different places in the world, aren't they, my delicious little babies? Yeah, different places, different countries. My delicious little babies, okay? When it's meant to be one. Okay. So the point, what I'm saying is, my delicious little babies, is that, yeah, we're going to see what happens now. And you're going to get ones who fall in love with these flipping... You're already hearing it, my delicious little babies, you know what I mean? I mean, there's marriages, there we are, that are breaking up over this. Couples splitting up over this. Because you got the husbands or the wives chatting to these silly damn things now. Do you understand what I mean, my delicious little babies? So like I said, before long, you're not going to need flipping drugs, man. You know what I mean? For those who very sadly take drugs. Because you're not going to need that, because it's one drug's replaced with another, isn't it? If you look at it a different way, I know what I'm talking about, my delicious babies. There we are. I'm looking at it from my noddle. Do you see what I mean? It's like these ones with these silly flipping meta bloody goggles, you know what I mean? And you watching them and they're doing this and I'm thinking, you're just effing crazy, man. Do you know what I mean? The lift does not go up to the top floor. All the cups are not in the cupboard, okay? If somebody feels the need to go into that kind of space like that now, then there's something not correct with it at all. Okay, my delicious babies, now I'm going to leave my video. So wherever you are in the world, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, please have a super duper delicious time. You only get one life, my little honey bunny. Sending peace, love, harmony, and bright blessings to each and every one of you. And may your beautiful little selves and your beautiful little families all be fully protected. So thank you so very much for any views, for any likes, and for the occasional comment. And yes, you know, I do not always talk about, you know, what ones would maybe want me to talk about. But that is what I feel, there we are, ones must do, you know. Because we've got everything else going on, but we still need to, there we are, talk about other things. Do you see what I mean? My delicious babies, but they try to, you know, distract us with things like wars and all of this now then. Okay, my delicious babies. So until my next video, so very much love. Thank you once again for listening. How I love you, sir. You're beautiful and delish. And